Why does the aftermath of a relationship with a narcissist hurt so much? Why does the end of a relationship feel so excruciatingly painful, uncomfortable, empty? And why do we continue to ruminate for months, maybe even years after the relationship has ended? If this is something that interests you, then please stay tuned to find out more. The aftermath of a relationship with a narcissist can often feel worse than the actual relationship itself, because the fog finally lifts, and this is when the pain gets a chance to fully set in. This is when we start feeling everything to the extreme, everything that we were avoiding in the relationship. When we come to the point where we realize that the person we were with is not who we thought they were, that the person we were with was actually fooling us the whole time. That is why it is so painful to come to terms with this. You have to remember that when you're in a relationship with a narcissist, you are in a trauma bond. And when you are in a trauma bond, there are constant highs and constant lows. Therefore, we have cortisol 1 minute and dopamine the next. And this roller coaster of emotions is what keeps us addicted to this person. And when the relationship with a narcissist comes to an end, so do these highs and these lows. And suddenly, we're left with nothingness, with emptiness, with quiet. There's no more drama, there's no more chaos, there's no more excitement. The cycle of dopamine and cortisol is extremely addictive. And when this disappears, well, we are left still feeling addicted to what we experienced with the narcissist. And we are also left in a state of hypervigilance, even though things around us are now quiet. The hypervigilance and this cycle of dopamine and cortisol has made it extremely hard for us to deal with the grief that comes with the end of a relationship with a narcissist. Unfortunately, there isn't a remedy for the pain that we feel because we can't talk to them. We can't go to the person that caused us this pain and ask them why they did this. We are not going to get a truthful answer. And the person that we thought they were, the person that maybe they told us they were at the beginning, was never truly there. We just wanted them to be that person. We believed them when they told us they loved us. And when we are withdrawing from a trauma bond, when there is no explanation, when there is no closure, because there isn't usually closure when you're dealing with a narcissist, when your identity is so tied to the highs and lows, is so tied to that kind of relationship, when that relationship ends, you don't know who you are anymore. Your nervous system is basically collapsing under the hypervigilance that you were constantly in. Because when you're in a long-term relationship with somebody who has NPD, you are on this emotional roller coaster all of the time. And this is addictive. And the body remembers this. The body is used to this. This is familiar. So when that all goes, you are left with nothing. You are isolated, bored, lonely. It's too quiet. And that is what makes the grief associated with the end of a relationship with a narcissist extremely hard. And let's not forget, you are not grieving a normal relationship here or a normal person here. You are grieving somebody that you thought this person was, but they weren't. The fact that the narcissist wasn't who you truly thought they were adds an additional layer of pain, an additional layer of suffering when you are grieving for the end of this relationship. The problem with being in a trauma bond is that we think this is love because you feel such intensity. Your emotions are so intense. And when our emotions are intense, we mistake that for love. We mistake that for being in love. But that is not the case. It is a trauma bond. It is not healthy, because healthy relationships don't have these extreme highs and lows. They feel safe. They almost feel boring because the partner is stable, because they are predictable. A narcissistically abusive partner isn't able to provide that stability. They are constantly keeping you on your toes. They are constantly changing the narrative. They are gaslighting you. They are selling you a story that is not true. They are making grand promises. They love bomb you at the beginning to get you even more hooked. And they know if someone is vulnerable. They know who to attract. And it's usually somebody who is codependent, someone who's had trauma themselves, somebody who hasn't had a healthy, loving relationship. They will attract those people. And narcissists know very well what they are doing when they get involved with a person like this. And when we talk about grief after a narcissistic relationship, it's important to remember that we are grieving the version of ourselves that we lost in the process. Because before the narcissistic relationship, we may have been somebody stronger. And after the narcissistic relationship, we are somebody who is much more broken, someone who is much more hurt, much more confused. You have been lied to again and again. So the grief that you feel is because of all of these things. It's because of the lies that the person told you, the promises they made you. And all of these things are very, very hard to process. That is why after the relationship, you end up getting stuck in this loop of ruminating over and over again. You start thinking about all the red flags that you maybe ignored at the beginning of the relationship. The only way to truly heal after a relationship with a narcissist is to allow yourself to have the time to be in solitude, to be in nature, to be with friends, to slowly pick up the pieces and put them back together. Resilience, in my opinion, is born from solitude. We need to start putting those pieces of ourselves back together. And in order to do that, we need to be in our own space that's neutral, that's ours, away from chaos and manipulation, away from all of this toxicity that we don't need in our life anymore. It may feel like we can't be on our own after we've been in a narcissistic relationship, but we can. We can slowly build on this day by day, moment by moment. It can feel very lonely and very disorientating after the end of such a relationship, but it is possible to slowly heal. It is possible to get over this intense rumination. Once you accept the reality of what you were involved in, once you surround yourself with other people who get it, with a support network that gets it, you will feel better. And don't forget that it's important to reach out to a therapist or a coach who specializes in narcissistic abuse recovery, somebody who knows what it's like, somebody who understands trauma bonding, somebody who understands toxic relationships and what they do to someone's body. Now, if you found the topic of this video useful today, please feel free to let me know. I also want to mention before I go that I'm starting another support group for women of narcissistic mothers, starting on Sunday, December the 7th at 6 p.m. Central European time. This is going to be a maximum of 8 women. I would like to keep the group closed so it's safe and it's nurturing. So if you're interested, please feel free to send me an email to courageisallyounneed@gmail.com. Thank you so much for your attention. Take care wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you very soon in my next video. Bye-bye.